Hey everyone, welcome back to Maple Syrup Tech. I'm Rick, and today we're going to be looking at some of the new content I started mentioning in my last video. So, I was looking for other ways to extend the channel into a couple of new venues, and honestly, we're still going to be mainly focused around computer parts and reviewing budget computers. However, I thought that the gaming sector is big enough that we can review some retro gaming. So primarily, what I'm going to be doing with you guys is building a retro collection of NES games, but primarily focused on repairing broken or defective carts. So really building a collection on the smallest budget possible, because if any of you out there have ever tried, you have to know that, retro gaming has become a really sinkhole for money, and it could be very expensive. So the best way I found of building a collection, I've already been repairing consoles and games for years. Well, I thought of building my own collection almost exclusively from retro games that were basically declared as broken or defective and sold for very low prices. So we're going to start this new content. Like I said, if any of you guys out there like or don't like this content, let me know. But don't worry, we're still going to be getting plenty of computer gaming out there. And like I said, it'll still be primarily focused around that. But for the next, I'd say, month or two, there might be a few more videos around the retro gaming, just because I had to get a lot of products in so that I could actually test out and get the content out there for you. So it's sort of just working through the backlog at first. That might seem like we're going to be doing more of that, but overall you'll see that over time it'll even out to about 50-50 between computer gaming and the retro gaming content. We'll be doing things like building Game Boys, building retro pies, things like that, but we'll get to it as we go. Let's get focused today. Basically, these two games that I got them for actually $3 a piece. The Simpsons game is probably worth around that, even new, because it's not a really good game, as we could say. Maybe more around $5. However, what was really a steal is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, which is the arcade game, which is generally sold, at least for around $15 on average. So this is actually a really good game to pick up for only $3. Both of them were sold because they were said to be defective or only working intermittently. So we'll diagnose together first what the problems are in each game, like are they working at all or not at all. We'll open up, start with cleaning them, and see where we get. 90% of these games after cleaning will probably become functional. But, we'll hope that over time we'll be getting a few cases where we have to do a little bit more than just, some rough cleaning. So let's start by diagnosing and see exactly what the problems are with each game. Here we have our test setup. Basically, first step, what we're going to do simply, try out each cart 10 times. I mark down every time the cart successfully boots, so it'll give us a baseline to see, are these carts booting at all, are they only booting sometimes, and whatnot. Then we'll open them up and we'll get a better idea of what we can do to make this situation better. So you'll see a bit of timeline sped up, but you'll get a general idea of how we're going to go about it. So we're going to start with Bart versus the World, see what we get. So, first results, Bart vs. the World, we got a 0 out of 10. So, maybe we'll have an interesting video in the end overall for this one, because it seems to be having some real difficulties booting. So, once we open up, we'll get a better idea. Now, let's go to Turtles 2. Once again, it'll be sped up, and we'll see what it got in the end. Okay, so for Turtles it was a little bit better. We actually got 4 partial boots. Partial boots because, as you could see, the first screen was clear and normal. However, the game start or the player select screen, all the text was jumbled up. After feeling the card around, I have a good idea of what's wrong with this one, but we'll open up and confirm and look at fixing both these games and see if we can get them working on a pretty consistent basis. Okay, so here we have it. We have the kit that what we're going to need to open up these games and start by cleaning them. Because like I said, 90% of the problems are sometimes dealt with right away just by cleaning. So what you're going to first need is one of these game bit screwdrivers, which is specially made for opening Nintendo games. You can find them on Amazon for about $1 or $2. It's pretty cheap, and so honestly, if you're getting into gaming and you want to actually do any game repairs, make sure that you have one of these screwdrivers. It's going to save you a lot of time. After that, for the products we're going to use, I have some distilled white vinegar right here, some isopropanol alcohol, so 70% or higher is what you're going to need to clean this. This is only very occasional, but I have some Brasso when really it's needed for, this is like the heavy lifting stuff. Then we have, for actually cleaning, we have a toothbrush, which is going to be doing the majority of the work. We're going to be using also some Q-tips to really get that stuff on there, in the smaller spaces. And to finalize, in some cases, we're going to be using a Brillo pad, which is really going to help getting off that grime. I know a lot of you out there are probably going to have comments saying that, don't use the Brillo pads, it damages the copper and whatnot. But honestly, I've been doing this for like 20 years and I've never had problems using Brillo pads. Yes, it does, damage a little bit the surface of the copper contacts, but overall, you're better having scratched up contacts that do not have any type of, any type of mold on them or any type of residue on them than having a unscratched up contact, but that basically just doesn't work because there's too much corrosion stuck on that contact. So let's start by opening up these cases and seeing what we're dealing with. So once again, this will be sped up just for sakes of the video. So now that we have them open, we can see that basically, I'm going to try to get the camera in close enough to see this, but basically, you should be able to see now that there's like quite a bit of corrosion, especially on the Simpsons game right here. Hold on, the camera's having trouble close up. I can see quite a bit of corrosion all along the teeth here. So there's a good chance that maybe if we clean this up, this side's even worse, we're going to be able to get this game to boot pretty decently. Now on the Ninja Turtles game, however, it's a little different. If you see, the PCB here is loose in the case. Now just this little bit of wiggle room might be enough to get the game to not boot on a regular basis. So we're going to see what we can do about this. There's a couple of fixes for this. So I did take out my super glue here because we might have to be using this for the Ninja Turtles repair. But we'll see as we go along, because we'll start with a cleaning, see if we get successful boots, and then come back. So I'm going to explain the cleaning process to you guys really quick, because I don't think you guys are going to want to see 25 minutes of me actually scrubbing at these games. So I'm going to explain the overall process, and then you guys are going to see it in an accelerated format. So basically what you start by doing is you take some basically white vinegar, you spread it over the PCB wherever you have corrosion. You give it about 3-4 minutes to react, because white vinegar actually degrades corrosion. So it's actually going to do in a chemical fashion, degrading the corrosion, weakening it up, so that the PCB is easier to clean up. Once you have that first step done, you switch to your isopropanol alcohol. Basically what you're going to do is you're going to spray this over the contacts, and basically you're going to clean off the vinegar that you put on step 1, basically trying to see if all the corrosion comes off with the combination of the vinegar and the isopropanol alcohol. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to scrub with the toothbrush to get at that step, to try and get the corrosion off without causing too much damage, like too much scratches on the copper contacts. Depending on the result, and I eyeball it, see what it looks like. What we're going to do after that is basically, and sorry about this, I forgot this in the first step, we're going to use some WD-40 to actually friction up the copper contacts. I put this on at the end anyway after putting the alcohol and whatnot to promote anti-corrosion. And basically I'm going to spray the WD-40 and then I'm going to scrub with the Brillo pad over the copper contacts to really get that last level of corrosion off of there if needed on each PCB. And then lastly, I'm going to clean it off with a clean microfiber cloth. So that will be the last step. So overall, this is going to take me probably about 15 to 20 minutes. I'm going to film it for you guys and accelerate it. And in the end, then we're going to test the games, see if they're working, and if the Ninja Turtles is still giving us trouble because of this little wiggle room, well, we'll come back and see what we can do to maybe fix that up. By the way, I aim to have above a 70 to 80% success rate on booting these games. So if I basically in my second round of testing am under 7 out of 10 successful boots, we're going to open them back up and see if we need to do anything else to get them running. You might see me cleaning up a bit around the case because especially in the Bart Simpson one, there's actually quite a bit of grime and whatnot. Overall, it's the same process. I'm going to take some vinegar, some alcohol, and rub till it gets clean. So enjoy the process, and we're going to get started. Now, after hit it with everything, the contacts are actually still pretty. There's still a lot of corrosion on the contacts that I can't get at with what I've been using so far. So this is actually going to be one of the cases where I'm really not happy with what I'm looking like for the moment. So we're actually going to be using the Brasso on the basically the Bart Simpson games. So I really don't think it's going to be necessary for the Ninja Turtles once we get to it, but I'm really not happy. So we're going to put some Brasso just on the side, on this side of the PCB. We're going to let it react for a few minutes. Then we're going to go back over it with a Brillo pad and get that stuff off there. And hopefully we're going to get all the corrosion off these contacts without causing too much physical damage to the contacts, to the traces. Sorry, I'm saying contacts, but the problem right now, the contacts are pretty clean, but the traces leading up to the EEPROMs are not. And that's why I'm going to the Brasso. So we're going to let that set in for a minute or two. And you're going to see me scrubbing some more. So let's hope that this will be the last step. Then we'll hit it, if this does look good after that, we'll hit it with some WD-40 again. Just because, like I said, I always put that in at the end to seal in and protect against any future corrosion. So let's hope that we have our last step. While this is reacting, I'm going to be starting to work a little bit on the Ninja Turtles. So it's going to be the same process once again. Now this one has some nice traces. Everything else looks pretty clean on the PCB, so it's pretty going to be a straightforward cleaning in my opinion. And like I said, it might just be a revisit for the wiggle problem after everything is done. So let's get going. Let's start with the vinegar, and once again, it'll be sped up. Okay guys, so here we are back at testing. So I put the game carts back together. I scratched off what was left of the corrosion on the leads for the Simpsons game. The Turtles game seemed pretty clean after just a normal regular cleaning session. So now we're back to testing. So I'll speed it up again. So we'll do our 10 test pass and see if these games are hitting the mark. So here we are back with our 2 games retested, and I can say it was a success. As you guys saw in the time lapse, the Bart Simpson's game worked 10 times out of 10, so that is incredible. Going from 0 in 10 to 10 out of 10 means that our clean and our repair of the cart has worked 100%. And the Ninja Turtles game, actually, without even adjusting for the loose PCB, seems to not be a problem. It's not very loose. We got 9 times out of 10. So from going to 4 partial boots to 9 total complete boots out of 10. And actually, I'll be honest, at one time it didn't boot. I think it was more due to human error than to actually failure of boot, because I don't think I pushed the card in properly, which is why I do these tests out of 10, because there is the human error factor where you can just not insert the card fully or properly, and that's why your cart won't boot. So as you guys saw, I hope you liked looking at this cleaning process with me. For the moment, we didn't have to do any major repairs. It was just really cleaning. For the Ninja Turtle cart, it was really just a normal, quick cleaning process, which is a vinegar, alcohol, finishing up with a little WD-40 and some, doing a quick pass with the scraper, basically. And so for the Simpson cart, however, at least we got to see really a more in-depth clean. So not only doing the vinegar, alcohol, and WD-40, but actually having to go to the Brasso and really using that scrubbing pad really in depth to get those traces clean as well. What was interesting about the Simpsons cart is that it's not only important to clean the contacts, but to really look at the traces, and the traces were really had a lot of corrosion on them and was probably preventing the current, therefore the information to communicate between the contacts and your memory EPROMs. So that's something to really look at, and we had to go in with the Brasso. I did a tiny bit of work off camera simply because with the camera filming from an angle, it was really hard to get really in depth to go get those fine traces, but it's exactly the same process as I was doing. It's just that basically you're going to focus on one trace at a time and really scrub till you've got that corrosion out, because overall, yes, you are probably removing a small layer of metal on your traces and on your contacts, but overall you're better having clean contacts that make a full contact and gets your cart working again than being too easy on it and basically having to throw the cart away because it's not going to boot. So I hope you guys like this these new things we're going to be doing. Let me know what you guys think. Don't worry, it's not gonna be only cleaning Nintendo carts. We're gonna be looking at we're always gonna be taking the tech perspective. You're not gonna see me playing some retro games for an hour or two. We're really gonna take the perspective of always working on the hardware, how we can fix them, what we can do with old hardware to, game in 2019. So like I said, I hope you guys like the content. Please leave a like and a subscribe. Always helps the channel. We're going to be focusing on growing even more for this year. And like I said, anything you guys would like to see, let me know down in the comments. We're going to be working on repairing some retro controllers next. So let me see if you guys are excited to see that content. And I hope I'll see you guys as usual in my next video.